Daniel grew up in a small, run-down apartment at the edge of the city. The walls were cracked. The roof leaked when it rained. In winter, cold air slipped through the broken windows. This was home. Daniel was 14 years old. His father had passed away years ago. His mother worked long shifts at a small diner, standing on her feet all day just to keep the lights on. Money was always short, rent was always late, and peace was always fragile. Daniel knew they were poor, but what he didn't know was this. Was dreaming big something only rich people were allowed to do? Every night before sleeping, Daniel sat by the window. Outside, cars passed by. People were going somewhere, to jobs, to homes, to lives that felt far away from his own. He looked up at the sky and whispered to himself, "One day I'll leave this place. One day my life will be different." Daniel didn't own toys. He didn't have video games, but he had one thing he guarded carefully, a worn-out notebook. Inside it, he wrote simple sentences. "I will become someone. I will build something. I will give my mother a better life." He didn't know how it would happen, but he knew why it had to. At school, Daniel was quiet. His clothes were old, his shoes were torn, and his lunch was usually just a sandwich. One day, a classmate laughed and said, "What do you think you'll become? People like you never make it." The room filled with laughter. Daniel didn't say a word, but that night he cried quietly. His mother sat beside him and said, "Listen to me. We may be poor in money, but your dreams are not poor." Those words stayed with him. They became fuel. One afternoon, Daniel discovered an old computer in the school library. It was slow. The screen flickered, but to him it felt like a doorway to another world. He started staying after school, watching free videos, learning how computers worked, how ideas turned into opportunities. While other kids played, Daniel studied. He walked home late, tired, hungry, but determined, because he believed one thing: dreams don't cost money, but chasing them does. Years passed. Daniel grew older. When high school ended, college felt impossible. There was no money, no support, no shortcuts. People told him this is where reality begins, accept it. But Daniel refused. He took part-time jobs, worked during the day, learned at night. He was exhausted, but he didn't stop, because quitting had never been an option. One day, Daniel built a small online project. Nothing fancy, nothing perfect. Most people ignored it. But then, an email arrived. "Your idea is different. We'd like to give you a chance." Daniel stared at the screen. For the first time in his life, someone believed in his dream. He cried that night, not because he had made it, but because someone finally saw him. Years later, Daniel was no longer poor, but success didn't change who he was. The first big thing he bought wasn't a car, it wasn't a watch, it was a house for his mother. He looked at her and said, "You were my first investor. You invested belief." This is not just a story about money. It's a story about courage, about patience, about believing in yourself when no one else does. Daniel started with nothing, but his dream was rich. You don't need a perfect start. You need an unbreakable belief. Because the most powerful thing in the world is a person who refuses to stop dreaming.